Hey guys, welcome to my workshop. I am Chris Walton, being a craftsman. Thank you for joining me and watching this video. So if you've been watching this channel for the past maybe 2 or 3 months, you might have been hearing me talk a lot about a project. So finally, that project is done and ready to be shown. And that project is this really cool gardener's toolbox. It's got some dividers in it, and it has been made specifically for another fellow YouTuber that I know very well. His name is Christopher, as well as mine, and his channel is Midwest Man Mountain. So if you haven't already, go check his channel out. He's got some really cool stuff. He's really heavy into his garden right now. So the reason why I made this box was because I wanted to give back to him after doing a collaboration with him on making this box into kind of a battery holder, and you could check out that video in the card above on this screen as you're watching it. So this might be a little bit of a long video. There's not going to be a whole lot of talking. I'm going to do a lot of just some fast-paced stuff, some different things going on, maybe some background music, and just sit back, enjoy, get a bowl of popcorn, eat a Pop-Tart, whatever you want to do. So you're going to watch this from the beginning to the end. Okay, so as I was editing this video, I started to realize that putting music to this is going to get really long. It's going to get really boring. I'm going to have to use 4 or 5 songs. So rather than using music, I figured let's just go ahead and do a little bit of talking while I do this. This is really not a how-to video. This is more of a video showing you how I made this box. But I will point out a few key features that I did to kind of make this box better, and some tips and things you might figure out as you watch this video. But what I'm doing right here at first, this is actually kind of making something I'm going to use later in the video, but I've cut down 2 pine boards down to about 1/4 inch thick. They're going to be used to be dividers on the inside of this box. And now what I'm doing is making the sides of this box. And I had to do this in 2 pieces. I wanted to make it tall enough, about 12 inches tall, and I didn't have a 12-inch wide board. So I opted to just glue them together, but this is the top portion of the box. So to make these cuts, I used my really fancy miter gauge on my table saw sled, and the reason why I use this rather than the miter saw is because if you're a woodworker, you know this to be true. You never get the most precise cut on your miter saw. Now, sure, you can take all the time in the world and set it up perfectly to get the perfect 45-degree angle, but I personally really love to just cut them this way. I get a really accurate cut every time, and I never have to try to set it to be 45 degree. It's always set for 45 degrees. Okay, so now I'm working on the handle, and for the handle I wanted to use a very high contrasting in color board. The base of this holder is actually made out of pine, but the handle is going to be made out of cherry that I had milled from some firewood that I have on my house property. And as you can see, this has a lot of character and has a part where it was already starting to create that create the spalting effect, and I really wanted to get that in there. It looked really, really cool. And I'm just kind of freehanding what I think would work, and I didn't want to do both sides. It just worked at getting one side, and then I used this technique that I used from Jimmy DiResta and how he does this. Just using tape, cutting it out, and then flipping it and using it on the other side to get an exact replica of it on the other side. So now what I'm doing is just going at it free-handed on the bandsaw and getting it cut out, and then after that I'm going to end up doing some carving on the bandsaw to get this exact size and shape that I want on this handle. And there is the handle. So now the sides were ready to be glued to the other side. So as you can see, as I stated before, these are two separate pieces that I wanted to glue together to create the longer piece. And it turned out really good in the long run. You can't really tell that there's a joint there. So this was actually something I felt was an okay thing to do. Alright, so it's the next day, and this is all dried and ready to be cut. And to add a little bit of accent to these corners, rather than it just being a blunt end, I wanted to give it kind of a curvature. So I just measured down a certain degree. I believe I did 3/4 of an inch, and then used my little compass there and just rounded off the edges so that it comes down as a nice little slope. So the problem that I had was with that slope, I couldn't just cut the side board straight because it would look a little awkward. So what I wanted to do is actually cut this board with that sloping angle in it. So to achieve that, I would just cut off the amount of the wood that I needed to cut off, and then I would just take it to my vise and then hand plane the rest of it down. In retrospect, as I'm watching this and as I've been editing this, I realized that I probably could have saved myself some time by actually setting my table saw blade at an angle. So instead of cutting it straight at 90 degrees, I could have maybe cut it a little bit, maybe like 80 or something. That way would have less wood to take off in the long run. And as you can see right now, I'm taking off that wood. I'm using that Japanese hand plane. It's awesome. I really have enjoyed using that. If you haven't already, I have a video that talks about that, and you can check that out in the links above. But another thing you can do is check out, go to the eBay and check it out there. It's really inexpensive and it's worth the money. And then after I hand planed it, I used a curved piece of trim with some of the sticky adhesive sandpaper to accomplish the little bit of a curvature that I needed in this piece of wood. So now it's time to begin the shaping of the handle. I recorded all of this in time-lapse because it took me probably 30 to 40 minutes to actually get this to be really nice and smooth, to have the nice contour, especially where your hand would go. I didn't want it to kind of give you any sort of uncomfortable feeling holding it. And I know that the guy that I was giving this to is a rather larger guy than I am, so I wanted to take that into consideration, making this handle big enough for his hand to reach over without any sort of problem. And so now what I'm doing is making a really cool joint on the corners. I wanted to make something that was similar to a box joint, but not quite a box joint, kind of almost like a half flap, but not really a half flap. It just turned into being kind of a joint not really have seen. I just thought this would work. This would look cool. Kind of goes with the feel and the look of this box that I was going with. And it just added a really nice decorative touch to it. Not to mention that it's pretty strong too. And one thing to mention in this entire project, once it's done, there are no metal parts in it at all. No nails. Everything's held together by wood glue. And it's waterproof wood glue, so it won't get messed up if it gets wet or anything of that nature. And here you see the joint fits perfectly, looks really nice, and just making sure that they all fit. I did cut all of the other ones off camera. This video was going to be long enough. I didn't want to record every single corner. So now I'm turning my attention back to the handle. And the way this is going to work, it's going to go through the sides of the box, but it's not going to go through at the full size. It's going to be recessed all the way around so that when it would go in, the actual handle is going to stop it from going all the way through. And then on the other side, I'm going to make a hole to put a little pin in it. It's kind of something that the Japanese really like to use, and it's something that I have never done before. I wanted to give it an experiment. A lot of this box was a lot of experimenting, with the special jointry on the corners, the way I do the bottom, which is coming up here soon, and this handle. This is something I've never done, but I've always wanted to do. So this was a lot of experimenting, a lot of learning on the fly. So if you see things that maybe aren't done the way that you might do it, keep that in mind. This was kind of the first time I did a lot of these certain aspects in this video. On this channel I do a lot more country things, a lot more primitive, a lot more real basic things, nothing with a lot of class or fancy doodads on it. So this was something that was outside of my comfort zone, and to be honest, it really challenged me. It made me feel like I was able to learn a little bit more just by kind of having fun. This project took me probably about all of 2 to 3 months to do, and really it's not like I spent every day on it. It was more or less the time that I had. My priorities, this is not a very high priority on my list of things, and so there's many other things that come first. And anytime I get to free time, that's what I'm in the workshop making these things. So I was able to kind of do a little bit at here or there, and that's why you see me wearing many different shirts in this video, because it spans a good length of time. And but enough of that rambling. It's kind of turning into more of just a talk here, so hope that you're bearing with me on that, and I hope that you're still enjoying this video. So now back to those little boards we did at the very beginning of this video. They're going to be cut a little bit shorter, not the full width that they are right now, as you see laying on the table. But I'm going to actually use my router bit and cut a little slot for the boards to set in. And it is recessed about 1 inch from the top of this, so they don't go all the way up to that nice curved edge that I created. I didn't want to mess with that at all. So now the time came to glue everything up. I had been looking at this thing for months on end, waiting for the day when I could glue it up and all of the little pieces would become one. And I was so excited to do this. I put it in time-lapse mode because I didn't want to have to really do a whole lot of the video parts. I just wanted to get this thing together. I was so excited. So obviously now we jump to the next day. Everything's dried. I took all the clamps off, and I'm just using that same router bit that I did before and cutting a little rabbit in the groove all the way around. One other thing that I realized that I did that I wish I had remembered to do was the little boards for dividers ended up going all the way to the bottom. I should have kept them up that 1/4 inch so I wouldn't have to try to cut them with the router, because that was extremely challenging. But it worked out good. It kind of gave a nice little touch to it on the bottom, and just turned out great. So now I've just got all the slats cut. Didn't want to do anything too fancy here, just cutting these little slats, kind of going with the look of what I typically do in my workshop all the time. And then it was just time to glue it. Once again, no nails, no air nails to hold them in place either. Just straight up wood glue. Okay, so as you just saw, these pins are really interesting. They're different than what you normally would see, and what I was cutting is more like what you would actually use, but I had to kind of make some changes on the design as I was going, because certain things didn't work out the way I wanted it to work out. But in the end result, it actually looks perfectly fine. It looks just like the way I wanted it to look. So they're serving more of a purpose of looks as to functionality. Alright, so hey, everything is finished on this thing. Oh my goodness, it turned out awesome. I'm really excited about this. I gotta go box this up and mail it off to Mr. Midwest Main Mountain himself. So if you haven't already, please go to his channel and subscribe to him. Leave a comment or two somewhere in his videos and tell him, hey, I found you because of being a craftsman. And while you're at it, if you haven't already, I so recommend you subscribing to this channel because I do a lot of woodworking. Obviously, if you've watched it to this point, you might be interested in the woodworking. So please hit that subscribe button. Also hit the little bell icon. That allows you to know of any future videos that I might be having. And while you're at it, please like me on Facebook as well, and then share this video. You know, I want to get this spread out as much as possible, kind of get more people in this, what I call family here on YouTube, involved in things. But please be sure to like, share, and comment. Spread it. And if you haven't already, please leave a comment below. Tell me what you thought. If you have any questions on it, some of the stuff that I did. If there's enough questions, I might make a video that would primarily just answer a bunch of questions. So I hope you found this video really fun, exciting. Hope it wasn't too long. It's probably one of the longest ones I put out, but it's well worth it. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.